Q8 pilot videos are powered by Virtual Fly. Hello there friends and followers, and welcome to this Explain 11 video. Today we're going to be putting the Carenado and Leading Edge Simulations SAAB 340 in a head-to-head comparison. We're going to be comparing both aircraft in terms of the 3D modeling, the texture work, aircraft systems, sounds, integration, and other features. The head-to-head comparison will be based on a point system. For each category, we will review the aircraft and assign the points to the winner in that category. Please do note that this is my personal opinion based on my observations of both aircraft relative to real-world footage of the aircraft and watching several videos of the actual startup procedure of a SAAB 340. Without further ado, let's get started. In order for you to follow along the video, please note that we will be using the Flybe livery for both aircraft. The Carenado SAAB will be in the purple livery and the LES SAAB will be in the white livery. We will begin by taking a look at the 3D modeling and the texture work of both aircraft. This is the Carenado SAAB 340. As you can see, the 3D model and the exterior texture work is done to a very high standard. And this is the norm with all Carenado aircraft. The application of PBR is done quite well. It gives the aircraft a shiny and realistic look. If we examine the details on the wings here, the propellers, and the landing gear area here, I would say that Carenado has done a very good job in the 3D modeling and exterior texture work of this aircraft. We are now looking at the SAAB 340 by Leading Edge Simulations. And as you can see, the 3D model is an exquisite replica of the real aircraft. The actual textures are 4K textures, which gives the aircraft a very realistic look. Again, the application of PBR is done very, very well on this aircraft. I really like the details they put on the wing and this area here. The landing gear area is modeled perfectly. It looks exactly like the real aircraft. I tend to like the details of the textures in this model more than the Carenado, but both are great in terms of the exterior 3D modeling and the texture work. Based on my review of real-world footage of the aircraft, I'm awarding a point to both Carenado and LES for the exquisite 3D modeling and exterior texture work. We are now looking at the 3D cockpit and interior texture work of the Carenado SAAB 340. As you can see, Carenado has done a very good job modeling the 3D cockpit. This pretty much looks like the real SAAB. The amount of details is quite commendable in terms of the texture work. Everything is in 4K textures. Looking over here at the overhead panel, again, everything looks very well done. The texture work is of the highest quality. Now, there are a couple of things that I have noticed in the Carenado model. One is the color of the panels here is a bit off when compared to the real aircraft. And I've looked at several real-world pictures of the SAAB cockpit. I could not really relate to this color. It's a bit darker. Normally, it is lighter in the real SAAB. It's not a biggie, but again, if we want to look at authenticity, I think it is slightly less authentic than the real aircraft. Another thing that I couldn't really make out is the central pedestal area here. I could not find a single SAAB with this specific configuration. I have seen a lot of different configurations, but this specific configuration where the C-top is placed here and the FMC is placed here, that specific configuration I could not really find anywhere, at least on the pictures that I have seen. I have seen a lot of different configurations, so it's not really a big deal, and it might be that they've modeled an aircraft that has no available pictures on the web. That might be the case, but based on my own interrogation, this particular setup here was not there. All right, let's take a look at the passenger cabin And this is an area where I think Carenado has done a very good job modeling the passenger cabin. As you can see here again, nice details here on the sides. The passenger cabin itself is done quite well, and they've pretty much copied what LES has done in terms of the lights here, the interior lights. And we will turn the lights on once we start the aircraft. But again, the passenger cabin is modeled well. I like what they've done here in terms of the texture work. So in terms of the interior texture work, I think they've done a good job. But before we award the points, let's take a look at the LES SAAB 340. We are now looking at the LES model in terms of the 3D cockpit and the interior texture work. As you can see, this is a very authentic replica of the real SAAB 340 based on, again, my interrogation of the real world footage. The colors on this model are spot on. This is exactly how I found the real world aircraft in terms of the texture colors. I like the panel work and what they've done here to give it, you know, a bit of an old look here and some rust here on the panels. If we look at the overhead panel on this model, again, it is an exquisite and faithful replica of the real SAAB 340. I really like what they've done, and I really like the sounds, and we'll get to the sounds in a minute. But again, maybe the Carenado model is slightly sharper in terms of the textures, but in terms of authenticity, the actual colors of the overhead panel and the panel here, definitely this is a more accurate representation of the real aircraft. Another thing is the central pedestal area. This specific configuration I was able to find in several of the models that I've looked at. So this is a standard model they took from a real world aircraft. It looks pretty similar to the real aircraft versus the Carenado model, where I was not able to find their configuration implemented in a real SAAB. But again, it could be just the model that they've modeled that I was not able to find. But this is something that I was able to verify. The central pedestal area is very, very accurate. The entire 3D cockpit of the LES SAAB is very, very authentic. And personally, I feel it is closer to the real thing than the Carenado model, though both models are done quite well and to a very high standard. All right, let us take a look at the passenger cabin now. Let's see here. Now, the nice thing about the LES model is that you need to unlock the door first. Again, not a big thing, but again, for accuracy's sake, it is more accurate. And if you compare the passenger cabin from the Carenado model, you'll find that they've probably done a better job in terms of the texture work in the passenger cabin, especially this area here. The rest of the aircraft, I think LES again has done a very good job modeling the passenger cabin. And of course they have this section here, which I think this specific section is modeled better in the LES model as opposed to the Carenado model. The seats and the rest of the passenger cabin, I think, is done quite well on both aircraft. In terms of the interior 3D modeling and the texture work, I believe that both Carenado and LES have done a very good job to produce a highly authentic replica of the real SAAB 340. Having said this, I believe that the LES model is slightly more authentic and more accurate in terms of the colors and the placement of the actual components inside the aircraft. On those basis, I'm going to give the LES model the point for the interior 3D modeling and the texture work. We are back in the Carenado model now, and we're going to be taking a look at the different features and the integrations available in both the LES and the Carenado model. Beginning with the Carenado model, the Carenado SAAB 340 is equipped with the standard Carenado control panel, where it gives you accessibility to the autopilot, to the cameras and volume, as well as the different options. Again, pretty standard Carenado control panel where you can toggle the windows reflections and instrument reflections, static elements, the doors, the GPU. You can toggle the GPU and change the livery. The one thing I really like in this specific model is the integration with the Reality XP GTN 750 device. I will show you the device in operation as soon as we establish power to the aircraft. We are now looking at the LES model. While their control panel user interface is a bit dated, it is still very functional and puts you in the seat of a real-world Saab 340 pilot. It includes the static elements where you can toggle the elements with the GPU, as well as an interactive checklist. It takes you all the way from the preparatory check all the way to the parking check. And the really nice thing about the LES model checklist selector is that once you select, let's say, the before engine start, you can actually go to the item that requires your attention. For example, if we click here on the battery, it will take us to the battery. If we go to external power, it moves there, bleed valves, and so on and so forth, which is really a very nice feature. The LES model is equipped with the standard X-Plane 11 Garmin device, so there is no integration with the Reality XP GTN device. To me, that's really not a big deal. I don't really use the GTN device that much. I kind of prefer the X-Plane 11 default device in most of those twin turboprops or the general aviation aircraft. So I don't think, at least from my perspective, that this would be a determining factor for which aircraft is better than the other. If I really want to base this on the features that are built into the aircraft, I would definitely give the points to the LES model here, because the interactive checklist that they have is just simply phenomenal, and it's quite detailed. So the points definitely will go to the LES model in terms of the features. We are back in the Carenado model now, and we're going to be starting the aircraft from its cold and dark state. We're going to taxi to the runway, take off, take a look at the autopilot operation, as well as how the aircraft handles. While we are starting the aircraft, we're going to take notice of the aircraft behavior as well as the sounds. So let's connect the GPU unit. And by the way, I'm not going to follow the checklist for the startup procedure, but we're going to go ahead here and start the batteries. Now, the sounds are acceptable, but they are nothing like the real aircraft. Just for your information, this is based on my interrogation of videos, of startup videos of the real world aircraft. Okay, so external power is on. Again, the sound that you hear is pretty close, but it's not very accurate. All right, so we have external power. It's going to reset the bleeds here, and we're going to turn on the avionics. Let's see here. We need the nav lights. Beacon lights can go on as well. Seatbelt signs can go on, and oxygen. Okay, we are actually pretty much ready now for engine start. So I'm going to show you here the Garmin device. So this is the integration with the 750. If you guys are interested in a video, in a tutorial video on how to use or install this device, please do let me know. I'll be more than happy to create a separate video. Okay, so we're going to bring the fuel levers to the start position right here. I think that's about right. And we're going to go ahead and start the engines. For engine start, we're going to turn off the left and right avion or avionics. And let's see, the engine ignition. And let's start with the right engine. Okay, so the sounds of the engines are okay. They're definitely well made, but they're not very realistic. So they're not actually, they don't match what I've heard on the videos of the real SAAB. I'll put it this way. I could be mistaken. Again, it's very relative. I could be, you know, having some hearing problems. I don't know. But those sounds don't sound very realistic to me. They're well-made sounds, but they're not very realistic when compared to the real aircraft. Okay, so we have a good start on the right engine. We're gonna reset the right generator. Alright, so the right generator has kicked in. We no longer need the external power, so we're gonna turn it off, and we're gonna remove the GPU unit. And now we're gonna start the left engine. Okay, left engine is starting now. Just gonna wait for it to stabilize. I don't know what it's doing here, but okay. Alright, so reset the left generator as well. Alright, so the generators have now kicked in. And let's see here. Standby pitot. This is fine. Engines, actually engines we can leave them. That's fine. Okay. That goes on. And what else do we need here? Let's turn on the taxi light. We're going to put the fuel levers on beta. And we're going to head down here and turn on CTOP. Okay, right, so we can turn on the avionics back on now. And this is our Garmin device. Everything's looking good now. Okay, so we are now ready to taxi. Let's remove the locks. Okay, and flaps set for takeoff. And we are ready to go, so let's release the parking brake and taxi to the road. Alright, we are at the runway entry point, and we're going to turn on our landing lights. Again, the sounds are okay, but they're not great. Strobes are on, taxi lights are off, and we're going to bring the power, we're going to bring the torque to about 64%, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to bring the fuel levers back to max now. Okay. And we're going to release the parking brake. Let's line up.
Approaching 02. Approaching runways. On runway 02.
All right, and here we go.
500 feet remaining. Caution, short runway, short runway.
And we're gonna rotate at about 105 knots or so.
1,000.
Right, there we go. Okay, positive rate. Gear is going up. Alright, and we're gonna retract the flaps now. Now the sounds are pretty good, but again, they're not extremely accurate. We will take a look at the LES model before we make the final verdict. The aircraft itself flies pretty nice. It's pretty fluid, as you can see here. And according to Carenado, they have integrated the latest turboprop features and flight model of X-Plane 11. So yeah, so the aircraft here, let's make a left turn. Very, very fluid, handles pretty well. Okay, we can turn off this guy here and that guy as well. Okay, so we're going to bring the fuel lever to minimum. Okay, again, the sounds are done quite well, but we're going to compare them to the LES model. Now, I've done a lot of research on the sounds and I've listened to a lot of videos. Those sounds are not bad, I must admit, they're not bad, but they're not 100%. But we'll take a look at the LES model. Now, one thing that I want to point your attention to is the operation of the autopilot. The Saab 340 has a safety feature for engaging the autopilot. So if you look here, this is the autopilot, this is how you engage the autopilot. And there is a safety feature. When you push the autopilot switch forward, it will actually not engage immediately. So you actually have to hold it for a few seconds so that the autopilot is not accidentally switched on. So we're going to see if this is modeled in this aircraft, and we're going to click here, and as you can see, the autopilot has engaged immediately, and this is not accurate. Okay, so this is, according to the real Saab 340, this is not accurate behavior. Another thing that is not accurate is when we started the engine, normally when you click on the start, all the lights actually turn off, which we did not see in this aircraft. Everything remained as is. So this is also not accurate when it comes to the Carenado model. But let's take a look at the, by the way, you can either click here to go on heading select, or you can do it from this panel here. But definitely the operation of the autopilot, to engage the autopilot, that specific behavior is not accurate here. And now we're going to do exactly the same thing for the LES model. We are now in the LES model, and we're going to repeat exactly the same steps that we did with the Carenado. First, we're going to connect the GPU. We're going to remove all the static elements, and we're going to head over to the overhead panel. We're going to turn the batteries on. Now, the sounds are far more accurate in this model. Let's cancel the alarm there. And we are going to start the external power. Again, take notice of the sounds. They're far more accurate on this model than they are on the Carenado model, at least according to my experience and the videos that I have reviewed. We are going to turn the nav lights, the beacon lights, and we are going to turn on seatbelt, no smoking signs, and we're going to turn on the avionics. Again, the sounds are just phenomenal on the LES model, very, very accurate. And by the way, a real-world pilot on a previous video told me that the sounds on the LES model are exactly like the real aircraft, including all the hydraulic sounds that we hear. Okay, so everything is looking good here for engine start. We have everything set up. We're going to turn off oxygen first. That needs to go on. And we are pretty much ready now for the engine start. So what we'll do is we will bring the fuel levers to the start position right about here. And we are going to turn off the left and right avions, and we are going to start the engine. Okay, so let's click here. This is, I believe, not sure if this is on. Okay, we're just going to repeat the same steps that we did there. So let's start with the right engine. Now, did you notice what happened there? This is extremely accurate according to what I have seen. All the lights turned off. and just the sounds of the engine, just really amazing. This aircraft is really amazing. There we go. Again, the sounds are exactly similar to what I've heard during the real-world startup of a Saab 340. Okay, so we have we can reset the generator here. Just gonna wait for the generator to kick in. Okay, and we can turn off the external power now. And we can start the left engine. Again, as you can see, how everything turns off. And the sounds of the engine are just phenomenal. Very, very accurate sounds. Very similar to the real-world aircraft. Okay, and we have a good start. Reset the bleed. There we go. So both generators have kicked in now, and again the timing. So as we've noticed in the Carenado model, once you click the generator on, everything is on. That's it. In this model, there is actually a delay, and this delay is very accurate. According to what I have seen. Alright, so the main inverter is on standby, pitot is on, this guy goes on. Oh, we need to remove the GPU, so let's do that now. Okay, and we are going to put the fuel levers on beta. Listen to that. Very nice indeed. Okay, we can turn on our avions again on both sides, and we can turn on the taxi light, and we are now ready to taxi to the runway. But first we need to put this guy down. Oh, the emergency lights aren't armed. Okay, so let's arm the emergency lights. There we go. Again, some really fine details in this model that I have a lot of appreciation for. And we can turn on the Garmin device here. It's going to take some time to align. And again, all of these little details I really like, because it really resembles what the aircraft does in real world. Okay, there we go. Alright, and we're gonna come here and turn on this CTOD right there. Okay, alignment is done. Very, very accurate how this dialed, moved. I really like the lights of the PFD. By the way, I'm not going to show the night lighting. Suffice it to say that the night lighting on both aircraft is great. Really, there's no need for me to show it. They're both on great aircraft. So, again, we are ready now to taxi. So we're going to release the parking brake and head over to the runway. Parking brake released. That's still not released. Alright, there we go. Let's see here. Come on. There we go. Parking brake released. And we're going to head over to the runway now. One thing to note in the LES is that the operation of the aircraft throttle is more accurate than the Carenado for sure. Here, as I go here to reverse, because I'm in beta, the fuel levers are on beta. So again, I can really observe that the operation of the throttle is done quite well on this aircraft. All in all, in terms of the accuracy and authenticity, startup procedure and how the aircraft behaves, is very, very detailed on the LES model, where it is not on the Carenado model. So I would have to disagree with the Carenado claim that their Saab 340 is as detailed as it gets. I don't think I can support that claim. Okay, we're approaching the runway, so we're gonna bring the aircraft to a complete stop. You can hear now once we go to reverse, the change in the sound of the engines, which is great. All right, let's bring the aircraft to a complete stop here. Set the parking brake. All right, we're gonna bring the fuel levers back to max. Right over here, that's about right, yep. So this is the beta, and this is max position. And the Seaton is already turned on. We're gonna turn on the landing lights. And, excuse me, and the strobes. Taxi can go off, wing lights can go on, and we are pretty much ready to go. So we're gonna release the parking brake and take off. Flaps are already set. And we're going to do the same thing where I bring the torque to about 64%. Just my field of view here a bit.
Approaching 02.
Very accurate sounds indeed. Very, very immersive. In my opinion, it's far more immersive than the Carenado model.
Approaching runways. On
All right.
runway 02.
All right, here we go. We are ready to go.
100 feet remaining. Caution, short runway, short runway.
And I'm going to just go ahead and take off now.
100 remaining. Caution on taxiway. On taxiway.
Yeah, it's a really short runway. Probably not a good airport to test this aircraft. Okay, positive rate. Gears going up. The sounds are absolutely amazing. We can give it just a little bit more power here. Okay, and we're going to retract the flaps. All right, and we are now flying the LES, and the sounds are absolutely phenomenal. Now, the aircraft, again, handles pretty well. Let me bring back the... it's back to minimum. Alright, so the aircraft handles pretty well as well. Very, very fluid, extremely responsive. I love this aircraft. I love the LES SAAB 340. Maybe I'm a little biased towards this aircraft because I've had it for a long time, and it's an aircraft I really enjoy quite a bit. Very, very immersive, both in the way it operates, the sounds, the level of detail. Everything really has been done, though this is, by the way, it does have an edge over the Carenado in terms of how long it's been there. So definitely the LES team has had more experience with this specific aircraft, where Carenado is kind of like a mass production company. You can expect, an aircraft every couple of weeks, but this, it flies extremely well. I can't really tell if they've taken advantage of the latest, turboprop model or not, but it flies great. It is very responsive, extremely fluid. All right, so let's take a look at the operation of the autopilot, similar to what we did with the Carenado. And if we click here, you see the autopilot has not engaged. So you'll need to click and hold for a few minutes, and now the autopilot has engaged. So again, more accurate behavior with the LES model reference to the operation of the autopilot. Very, very nice aircraft, very highly recommended. The LES, or the Leading Edge Simulation SAAB 340, one of the best aircraft in my view, made for X-Plane 11. Based on what we have seen in this video and reference to the startup procedure, the aircraft behavior, the sounds, and the operation of the autopilot, the points definitely go to the LES model hands down. Now, reference to the price, the LES model is $10 more than the Carenado model, priced at $49.95, while the Carenado model is $39.95. In my view, the $10 difference is well worth it. And if you are interested in buying a SAAB 340 for X-Plane 11, I definitely recommend the LES model over the Carenado model. Well, folks, this brings us to the conclusion of our head-to-head comparison between the LES and the Carenado SAAB 340. If you have any questions, please do post them in the comments section below. And as it is always the case, until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you all very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.